It's working. For God's sake. Okay. Confusing. All right. So let me just share my screen. Okay. I feel like I'm going to be talking to myself, regardless if there are viewers or not, but I'm just going to have fun doing this. Okay. Let me quickly share my screen. There won't be any audio anyway, but it's perfectly fine. There you go. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. How the hell do I do this? Here we go. Present. Present. All right. Let me just look for myself once again. I need to be sure I know what I'm doing. Let me just look for myself once again. I'll change the view. Just a second. I need to make sure it's okay. Here you go. Okay, now let's do it again. Share screen. Hopefully everyone had their lunch already. Busog na po ang lahat. Okay, checking. Perfect. All right. So I guess we can begin now. This is streaming right now live at our Facebook page in Ryugaku Marketing. Of course, you can also check our website at ryugakumarketing.com. It's still currently being updated, but we have information about some institutions and schools there. We are also live at Anicon YouTube. Okay. So just in case, Ryugaku, what's the difference with Anicon? Again, we're merely a marketing arm. We are supporting Anicon study abroad team. We're focusing on more of the, I would say, specific na general pa, no? General information about studying abroad or what falls under the education tourism sector. I think it's about time we try to change how study abroad is called and call it in the general sense as education tourism, because study abroad is not just about studying languages, academics, but there's also internships, um, study tours. So there's a lot of factors involved to it, and we're tackling the whole general gist of it, right? So this is part one of our EduTourism seminars. It is an informative and an in-depth discussion of all study abroad programs and its details. No biases, just pure information sharing from a professional source, which, which is sino ang professional source natin, right? Mind you guys, to give you an idea, you can always check me on LinkedIn. I've been in this industry for 13 years now. I will not tell you my age, of course, but my expertise has been tourism ever since. I graduated with a degree in tourism from the University of the Philippines in Diliman. I've specialized in education tourism ever since. So I helped build companies for study abroad, like Jellyfish Education. I was their first employee. Then I worked as a representative of different educational institutions in Australia, Canada, etc. I've worked with agencies. I've worked with edtech platforms. So when we're talking about specialization, this is my bread and butter. So hopefully, just trust me. Okay. We're trying to avoid people going through Facebook crowdsourcing information, because that's dangerous. I'll be honest with you, right? Very, very dangerous. Uso ang chismis ngayon, and madaling maniwala ang tao sa chismis. Sometimes I don't know how people decide on what to believe on, but you need to be very, very careful in checking out where the information comes from. Hindi dahil sinabi ng lahat, it's true already, right? Okay, let's begin. This will be a quick discussion, brief, straightforward. That's how we always do it. That's how I always love to do it. Straightforward. I'm going to tell you what you need to know about studying abroad in general. And for today's topic, pangit yung segue ko ah. Anyway, this is our table of contents first. We will be discussing briefly the program in 6 chapters. Number one would be, of course, the main topic itself. Number two would be why work while you study. Number three are the specifics, okay, on working and studying at the same time. Number four is a common question asking, is it sustainable, right? This is very important because people are often basing their future on the part time privilege that they get, which is dangerous as well. I'm going to explain more of that later on. And of course, bringing your spouse to work with you, what countries avails or gives you that privilege, Technically, in all student visa programs, yes, you can bring your spouse. The question is when and what are the privileges should you bring them with you? And lastly, a conclusion and a summary of what I'm going to tell you, or an advice, a professional advice regarding this topic. But if you have any questions, please type down your questions on the comment box on Facebook or on YouTube. Right, this is our topic. There you go. I should adjust my segue. Our topic is working while study abroad. So work while you study abroad. Okay, this is a common question, and this is one of the reasons why Filipinos study abroad. Okay, let's admit it. Culturally speaking, Filipinos, we all want to study abroad not because we want to study, right? I think that's usually I would say the unusual thing. Some of the schools realize when they go to the Philippines, like, for example, I have clients from UK or Finland. They want to go to Philippines. They want to market it because they can see a lot of Filipinos having interest to study abroad. But what they don't realize is for Filipinos, majority, I can guarantee you 90%, they don't study abroad because they want to study abroad. They're not buying the study, they're buying the benefits of studying abroad, right? People are slowly realizing the importance of study abroad versus work abroad. And if they came from maybe a higher middle class family, it is a better option for most of them. Of course, not everyone can do it, and it's understandable. But they are realizing the importance and the value of studying abroad and what it gives them in the long run, right? So, without further ado, this may sound like a stupid question, but it's not, right? Why work while studying? Because number one, you're studying abroad under a student visa. What's the purpose of your visa? Studying. Why the hell would you work? All right. So the assumption is when you study abroad is that you are financially capable to support yourself while studying. That's the gist. But for us, for me, every time I study the industry itself, it's a gray area in terms of the purpose of each player of the industry itself. Like the schools know that they're there for study visa, they need to study, but they understand the need for people to work as well. They know, even if they see the financial capabilities of the student, that some of them would be required to work and they want to work, right? So it's a gray area. Schools know about it, that they're not super financially capable, but they still take it. Why? It's still a business at the end of the day. That's why it's very important for students to understand how these things work. Going back, why work while studying? Well, for me, the purpose of working while studying is not only necessary, okay, because when you study abroad, not only you're learning academically, but it also gives you advantage in terms of global exposure, right? The purpose of you studying abroad is not only to get the benefits after studying, but also to teach you how that society works. For example, I have a student, they studied, for example, in Canada, right? That's the number one destination for Filipinos right now. Should they study in Canada, they want to experience the way of teaching in Canada, the academic level of Canada. You have to admit it, this is also a reality. The Philippine standard is here, Canada is a bit here. Okay, hopefully you can look at my picture at the bottom. Right? um, Philippines is there, and if you want to go and stay in Canada, you want to be academically at par at their level, right? So you're studying in Canada, you're getting at their level. So to experience that, you're not enclosed in a classroom. You also experience the culture, the work ethics, understand how they think, how they work, how they function. It's what you call assimilation. Okay. And medyo, I would say this has been controversial in terms of Brampton, Canada, right? I'm sure if you watch TikTok, if your algorithm points you to study abroad, you always see a lot of Indians in Brampton. And the issue with it's not even discrimination, guys. Let's not get there. But it's an issue of assimilation. When you go to another country, you are a guest at their house. It's understand they respect your culture, but you don't need to shove your culture up their asses. Sorry for the word, right? You don't need to force your culture to them. They respect it, but you don't need to be loud because you're in another people's house. Okay, so you need to blend in with the culture. So the purpose of working while studying goes beyond just experiencing education itself, but working will give you more exposure, understanding the culture, the processes, so that eventually, when after you graduate, when you start working, it's much easier to adapt and be successful with what you're doing. Okay, so basically that's the purpose, and that is also the advantage when you're working while studying. Of course, you're also earning at the same time. The challenge comes when you are working, when you are focused on working instead of focused while studying, right? That is the common problems with some destinations. Usually, the conservative study destinations. Why do I call them conservative? They're just new players in the market. Unlike the traditional market, like maybe Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, the processes are streamlined. They know how to do it. Destinations like East Asia, like Japan, Korea, some parts of Europe, maybe Italy, they know that by law, a student visa can work, but they're not encouraging it. That's why sometimes they're very strict with students. Like, I want a student that has no intention to work, but in the Philippines, you cannot just get that. It's quite impossible almost. So, um, yeah, those countries would prefer students that has no plans of working. That's why sometimes the schedule is stacked, but of course, eventually we explain to them, we talk to them that this is really our nature, the culture. But what we can assure them, if a Filipino studies and they're working, they will not forget that the purpose is a study visa. So we always try to remind our students, and for us, for Anicot Incorporated, I can speak on my behalf. We educate the students like, if this is your goal, make sure that when you stay, finish your study first. Study, working comes later on with better benefits, right? So there are advantages, of course, in working while studying. Again, cultural exposure, earning more money, understanding, and eventually helps you with the ease of transition when you start working in that destination, right? Um, Third bullet: why Filipinos prefer to work while studying. Um, how do I say this? In terms of Filipino culture, most of the students who wants to study abroad comes from the upper middle class social scene. I would say 60-70%, then the remaining would come from the middle class, right? So they're not really rich when they study abroad. They have savings, they are capable. I think that is why they need to work to help their families ease the burden of sending tuition fees. Kasi that's our culture, di ba? For Filipinos, ayaw nating pahirapan si mama, so we want to work. I don't want to ask my parents, so I want to work, which is fine, admirable, that's good. So I think that's one of the reasons why Filipinos prefer to work, right? And sad reality, overall in general, not all Filipinos really have the exact amount to survive. If you'll be computing, for example, kung magkano gagastusin, for example, studying in Canada or Australia, you'll be spending maybe 800 to 1 million pesos for 2 years. They really don't have that amount. Usually they have the amount for first semester. That's why they rely on the part-time job, or they have a sponsor. That's why with us, with Anicon Incorporated, with Ryugaku, we are trying to promote new destinations that is really self-sufficient, because there are really destinations out there, just not that common, wherein you can really survive with part-time job. Probably I'll discuss that in the later slides, okay? But yeah, there are more options out there. It's just that in terms of human nature, in terms of consumer buying, we tend to go back to things or places that are very common or traditional because it feels safe. For example, I want to buy cola or soda. What's the top of mind? Coke, Coca-Cola, not Coke. Coca-Cola, right? But we can buy technically RC, ano ba, Pop Cola noong unang panahon. So, RC, what else the other brands abroad? So, but yeah, top of mind. In the industry of study abroad, when we talk about study abroad, all we know is Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and even US. But mind you, there's not much Filipinos in the US. So there's a discrepancy with the data of education USA and the reality of what's happening in the market right now. Something's up with the data. Um, so yeah, you get what I mean. But mind you, the world is big. How many countries are there? How many developed nations are there? If someone wants to study abroad, and one of the realistic situation is they need to rely on their work, there are destinations out there that is realistic. Okay, so I'll tell more about it on the next few slides. Okay, I feel intense right now, probably because I took a bath. All right, specifics. Oh, we have 4 viewers. Ay, Mikay. Si Mikay pala to. Good afternoon, madam. How are you, mommy? All right. So specifics. Right now we are discussing about specifics of working while studying. Okay. In this specific slide, we're tackling about four informations: the hours, what kind of jobs are allowed, salaries, class schedule versus work schedule. First point, hours. So usually it depends on the destination, but minimum working hours under a student visa, you are allowed to work for 20 hours. That's the standard. It's common with Canada, Australia, I think US even for OPT, New Zealand, some parts of Europe, Lithuania, Spain is 30, Italy, there you go. Germany is 20. So there you go. The standard is for studying for working while studying is always 20 hours. What's the maximum? Maximum is full-time hours, all right? There are countries that you can work full-time hours or 40 hours per week if you have a student visa. What are those? One would be Lithuania, okay? Mexico, as in Mexico country, not Mexico sa Pampanga, all right? Mexico, the country Mexico, you can work full time while studying. Actually, in Mexico, once you arrive and you want to start working, all you have to do is change your student to work visa. So, ibig sabihin, mas matimbang ang work visa sa student nila kahit papaano in that aspect. But yeah, in terms of working hours, going back, you are allowed to work while studying, ranging from 20 hours up to full time hours, depending on the country and the program you are taking. Why do I say depending on the program? For example, if you are studying in South Korea, if you are studying a language program, an associate or bachelor's degree, you are allowed to work for 20 hours per week. But once you go for master's and PhD, you can work from 35 hours per week. Okay, there are cases 40 hours. But generally speaking as well, um, during holidays or semester breaks, most countries would allow the student to work full time. Okay. Okay. So take note of that. Right. Second bullet point, what kind of jobs are allowed? It is also dependable on the country where you are studying, but of course, the gist is you are not allowed to work in an illegal job, like for example, gambling places, pachinko, what else? Of course, nightclubs. You're not allowed kahit sabihin sa kitchen ka nagwo-work. It may be questionable if you're working in a nightclub. You have to consider the industry kasi you need to protect your visa, right? Um, in some cases, you're not allowed to work in factories. For example, in South Korea, kasi kukunan mo ng trabaho yung mga naka-factory visa doon or yung naka E7 visa yata. So those are places that you're not allowed to do part-time jobs. Where are you allowed to do part-time jobs? Office works are good, but most of our students, they start working in blue-collar jobs. Eh, paano kung ma-pride si student, sabihin niya, why would I work here? I graduate 4-year degree in the Philippines, blah, 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 blah. Well, you have to be realistic again. Once you go there, you're starting from scratch. It's not exactly starting from zero. You have your leverage having a degree in the Philippines, but it's another culture. It's another level. Okay, so from Philippines, you go to another nation, which let's say another standard. So you need to start somewhere. It's up to you. Technically, you can start in an office job if you can pass the interviews, but for faster earning opportunities, you can start in a blue collar job first in restaurants, in maybe bento box making. Some would be teaching English, but usually blue collar are the fastest job that can hire you, right? But of course, I'm encouraging all our students, do not box yourself working in blue collar. There's nothing wrong with it. But I mean, if you want to go back corporate, it is very possible. I just don't think people realize that they can do it because they're already earning, and for them, it's easy money. It's faster. You don't really require to be thinking too much. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's just really you move around, do the system itself, then you're good. You move next. It's much faster. It's just more practical because the idea is you're still studying. If you're working corporate and you're studying, the challenge would be a bit different because corporate can require you to work maybe overtime, something like that. So challenges are a bit different, right? There you go. Right, 3 viewers. Thank you. Hopefully, I can earn from this. Salaries. How much are salaries? Since we're talking about different countries. Salaries would, of course, vary depending on the conversion. But let's try to simplify it this way. In any country that you're studying, okay, let's assume it on the minimum working hours, which is 20 hours per week. You can earn per month in peso around 40 to 50,000 pesos minimum per month. Assume na rin nating matipid kayo kasi again, too many external factors. So you can earn 40 to 50,000 pesos a month. Monthly expense, depende sa inyo kung maluho kayo, but technically you can go as low as 20 to 35,000 pesos per month. So 20 to 35 pesos per month, it's very possible with monthly expense. Then monthly income of 40 to 50K a month. Yes, you can save. Alright? Ngayon sasabihin niyo sa akin, sir, kaya naman pala kumita ng ganyan eh. Eh di kaya kong buhayin sarili ko. Technically, yes, again, depending on the country, number one, depending on the cost of living of the economy in that country, and depending on the tuition fee. You have to do the math. Right? So, dapat bumangga. Hindi ko may savings ka, sabihin mo, may ipon mo na. You have to crunch the numbers. Right? I can assure you, possible lang na mabuhay ka sa part-time income if you're working more than the part-time hours, which is maybe 30 to 40 hours per week. And the tuition fee is very, very low, like Lithuania, Mexico, South Korea, Italy, some parts of Spain, depending on the program. So, but if you're in the traditional destinations, I call the top market as traditional destinations like Canada, Australia, New Zealand. We call it Kanza. But if you're in the Kanza area, you cannot. You really need to have budget for the tuition fee, right? So there you go. Those are the salaries. How about class schedule versus work schedule? Some students will be asking, Sir, paano ako makakapag-work kung ganyan ang schedule? Going back, you're there to study. Though, of course, we empathize with the student and we definitely understand, trust me, but we need to protect you long term and just educate you on how you should approach the situation. So, if you are tight on the schedule and you feel like you cannot work, don't study at that destination. Choose a destination that maybe has friendlier schedule. For example, South Korea. We have a school wherein you can take master's degree and the classes is only like once or twice a week. Possible, right? Some schools in Canada or in Australia, but the standard is for most schools, it's usually 3 to 4 hours per day, 3 to 4 days a week. So you have time to work, right? But of course, it's going to be a bit tight, okay? So it's possible, but it's going to be tight. So class schedule versus work schedule. The trick is once you arrive, finalize your class schedule before you find a work. Do not change your class because of your work schedule. Your priority is still to study, okay? There you go. All right. Fourth slide. Okay. Anybody watching this? May pabati po ba dyan? Let me know. Anong oras na ba? Okay. Let me check the time. 1:30. Okay. That's good. Puso. Sino ang pumuso? Ikaw ba yan, Mikay? All right. Next question, next topic that would like to discuss briefly here is that, is it sustainable? I think briefly na-tackle ko na siya kanina sa previous points. So, relying on part-time job to survive on studying abroad. Technically, it is sustainable, but again, going back, depending on a few factors. Number one, where are you studying? Number two, what program are you studying? Okay, and lastly, the most important thing is, how are you living a life? Okay, kung maluho ka, it's impossible for you really to survive. Okay, so you need to be practical. Under student visa, focus on your student visa while working on the side. Okay, your mindset should be a bit different. So, how do you realize that? Kasi some people are comparing bakit mas mahal sa Canada, ganyan-ganyan, income ko, ganto-ganto. You have to realize incomparable siya. For me, it's apples to oranges. Kasi you don't rely on the conversion. What you need to rely on is how much are you earning in that community versus how much is the cost of living in that community. Wag mo i-compute sa peso na ipapadala mo sa Pilipinas. Okay? That's the wrong way to do it. Don't get the Filipino conversion. Determine your income versus your monthly expense in that community in that area. Dun mo malalaman if it's really sustainable, uh, yes or no. Parang ganon, okay? So, but again, generally speaking, you can earn up to 50K a month. You can spend up to 35K a month. That's generally speaking, assuming matipid kang tao. And there are a lot of factors, a lot of ways to save money. Okay? Hope you get that idea. So, one of the best questions I get is, should I rely on my part-time job to finish my studies? Quick answer, no. Okay? The idea for you to get a student visa is to study. But we do empathize and understand that not everyone can really sustain. How do you do it ngayon? If I really want to study abroad, pero ito ang pera ko, I can only pay for yung investment cost ko, yung kaya kong ilabas only for deposits, etc. Pero pagdating doon, gusto ko sana mag-rely sa part-time. It is not ideal to have that mindset. Although possible, kung yun talagang gusto mong gawin and we cannot stop you, I suggest be realistic and choose a destination that is self-sustaining. Minention ko kanina, what are those? Mexico, South Korea, Lithuania, Italy. So far, yun yung apat na natatandaan ko. But there are other countries. So if you want to know more what those destinations are, message us on this Facebook page dito sa Ryugaku Marketing and we'll tell you, and maybe we can do a consultation with you. This is free, okay? Then whatever school or country you decide on, we will rely you on our team at Anicon Study Abroad to process your application. If you came through the Yugaku Marketing, don't worry. Everything is free here. Depende sa services na need nyo, pwede nating i-upsell na lang yan or you pay whatever service that you need. All right? So, going back, ideally, do not rely on your part-time job to finish your studies. But if you have no choice, limited ang choices mo, ang options mo, but you can still study abroad. Isipin mo, ay, sure, gusto ko sana kasi Canada, blah, 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 kasi nandiyan tita ko. Pero tanong, hindi mo nga afford. You need to be realistic. Study abroad is an investment. Don't put yourself in a position that you're gonna lose. Put yourself in a position that, okay, I want to study abroad, but this is the realistic situation I'm in. I'm gonna study first in Korea. Then after this, I get an international degree, accredited in Canada this time, then go to Canada. That's it. Start somewhere instead of forcing a situation that you cannot afford. You know what I mean? So put yourself in a situation that you can win, then take it from there. Don't rush it. It's a good investment. At the end of the day, you will win. Lahat ng destination po na binebenta or pine-promote natin sa ating mga companies is may opportunity. We can guarantee you there are jobs. Can you get the job? That's another question. Okay. It is subjective to your skills. We already gave you the opportunities, the best chances of winning. It's up to you to grab the chances now. All right. Okay. Para akong self-help book dun ah. Okay. Right. We're almost done. All right. How about bringing my spouse to work with me? Okay. Good question. Generally speaking, again, this is the good thing about Ryugaku. We're talking generally speaking, but if you want something specific, all you have to do is message us on this page, or if you are online right now, we have 3 viewers, but I'm sure a few is viewing or checking right now, just not reflecting. Just drop a message, YouTube or on Facebook. Okay, bringing your spouse to work with you. Okay, all countries, wherever you study, you can bring your spouse. Question is, when can you bring them? How do you bring them? And what are the privileges when you bring them? Okay, let's go to the first point. When can you bring them? Usually you can bring your spouse depending on the country, but the fastest is the same time as you're studying. Currently, the countries actively that I know where you can bring your spouse at the same time with you is Spain, Finland, Canada if you're studying master's degree, Australia if you're studying master's degree. I think New Zealand as well, but I'll have to double check on the latest information. Then for other countries, you have to be in the country first before you petition or ipetition ang inyong spouse. When can you get your spouse and your child? You can get your spouse usually once you get your residence card, you apply it on your own for a dependent visa or a family reunification visa, depending sa country. Then you bring it there. Okay? Maraming tricks yan eh, maraming options. For example, in Germany, iba ang dependent visa sa family reunification visa. Okay? If you bring your spouse to a dependent visa, they're not allowed to work. If you do a reunification, they may be allowed to work. You know what I mean? So those are the things that you need to balance out. So you cannot just process, bring them out. So that's a good thing as well. If you work with us, okay, work with Ryugaku, we can help you with those informations kasi ang support namin sa inyo is hanggang makagraduate kayo. Kasi gusto namin siguruhin legal kayong nandoon. No, but seriously, we guide you until you graduate. That's how we do it here. Okay. So it's really saving money, saving time, very efficient. So yeah, when can you bring your spouse? Immediately and up to 3 months possible. Okay? Matagal na siguro yung 6 months. Pag 6 months mo pa napadala yung spouse mo, baka medyo tamad ka na nun. Kasi technically, you can bring them as early as 3 months. Okay? As long as you have a residence card, process the application, onshore immediately. You have to do it on your own. Okay? That's how the process goes there. Okay? Um, when can you bring them? How can you bring them? Yun nga, independent visa. That's what are the benefits lastly. So, ganito. Not all spouses can work while you're studying at the same time. Some countries allow that. Depende again sa condition. For example, si spouse dumating. Pwedeng si spouse may privilege siya na mag-work automatic or some spouse would have to find an employer and change to work visa. Again, depende talaga yan. That's why it's important to work with a professional information. Okay, napapaniwala sa Facebook minsan. Okay, so, but in some cases, your spouse really cannot work. Okay, lalo pag naka-dependent visa. South Korea, if they cannot. Japan, they cannot. But they can do an online job. It's not gonna count against their visa. So that's why we're encouraging some students, try to get used to the online job, remote thing, hybrid, whatever. So you can bring that abroad. It doesn't count your part-time hours. Online job, you can do it. So, may mga student nga gusto mag-double job. Siyempre, bawal. Okay? Basta kung ano yung work mo, tapos number of hours. Kung gusto mo kumita ng extra, get an online job. Possible yon. Hindi siya magka-count sa hours mo. Basta hindi ka tatablan yung pag-aaral mo. Okay? So, that's the gist of bringing your spouse to work with you. It is possible only in specific countries, specific academic program. Is it practical? Yes, you can do it. It's up to you. At least magkasama kayo doon. You can also bring your child. For all countries, as far as I know, when you bring your child with you, they are free to study there. Get educated. Okay? So, libre ang aral hanggang sila ay mag-17, 18. Right? So, that's a good thing as well. But yeah, ideally, you should have enough funds. But at the end of the day, this industry is all about having enough funds. Okay? There you go. I'm almost done. Okay. Ubus laway ko dun ah. All right. In conclusion, okay, let's go to the topic. 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 Okay. In conclusion, working while you study abroad. Okay. What's the ideal scenario is that it is best to take privilege of working while studying kasi it's something that you get as part of the benefits of having a student visa. Okay. The challenge is how do you maximize it and not abuse the system? Kasi tendency for some, once they start earning money, they rely on it too much. And for some of them, they rely on it too much that hindi na sila umaalis sa industriya na yan. What do I mean by that part? Once you graduate, as much as possible, try to go together with your job. There's nothing wrong with staying with blue collar, maybe for be promoted as a manager, but what we would suggest is try to go promoted in a higher position, whatever industry you're in. If you get promoted, you get more jobs, more opportunities, you get more points towards migration. Okay? Kasi again, you are already at the academic level needed in that country. So for you to transition to a better work, higher paying job, that's the next step. Okay. So yes, you can work while you study abroad. You should not rely on it. But should you rely on it, limited ang options na country mo. Pero magaganda pa rin po yung countries na yon. You just need to be realistic and stick by it. Mind you, for me personally, um, mas gusto ko ang South Korea in a sense. The more I study, the more I learn it. By the way, kami lang po sa Anico Incorporated ang semi-exclusive partners ng studying abroad in Korea. We really pioneered the program here. So should you wish to study in South Korea, let us know. So the more I get to know South Korea as a destination, the more I see yung opportunities na meron doon is almost similar or even better sa mga traditional destination. Okay? While of course, the traditional destinations are still very good, pero kung hindi mo talaga kaya and you need to rely on part-time job, go for South Korea. Okay? O kaya mo Europe, go for Lithuania, go for Italy. There are tons of options out there. So please do consider them and hopefully that will work for you. Okay? Let me just stop sharing here right now. I think I need to follow up my contract as well. Okay, andito pala si Yean, Joanna. Hi, Joanna. Si Kristen, lagi itong nakalike sa amin sa Ryugaku. Salamat, Kristen. Dahil dyan, may pa-jacket ka. All right. So, yeah, I guess that's it. Should you have any question, I hope you can log in and check out our page, Ryugaku Marketing. And if you want to apply directly, check out our website at type ko, huh? Let me type it here. How do I do this? Banners. There we go. I will type. I will type. So many banners here. Oops, not that one. Okay, let me type our website. Shout out to Joanna for formulating this topic today. There is our website. So if you will be applying, just log into this website. It's a DIY website. Just submit all your documents there. You don't need to pay anything. Once you receive your application or your interest, we're going to do a free consultation. That whatever you need, sa namin kayo i-endorse sa aming team sa Anicon Study Abroad, it will be free if you go through us. Depende sa services na need niyo. Of course, if you want additional visa assistance na feeling mo hindi mo kaya, you just need to work with Anicon. You can pay them. Very affordable rate naman. And yun nga, ang support ng company namin, ng group namin, Anicon Group, is until you graduate. So for example, if you're paying Anicon maybe 60,000 pesos for visa processing, divided by 24, how much are you paying them just in case? Wait lang bagal ako sa math nakailang ulit akong algebra. Divided by, kunyari 2 years ka mag-aaral, 24. It's like you're just paying 2,500 pesos per month. And your assistance until you graduate, right? So, yes, very affordable. Okay, so that's it for me. I think we do have another session very soon. I'm gonna check our page. Gonna connect with Miss Yean. Si Yean po ang ating sales manager for Yugaku Marketing. Should you have any questions, once you watch this, let us know and we will be assisting you all the way. Thank you very much, everyone, and good afternoon. Sayonara.